You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
So a man is sitting in the back of a taxi when he decides that he should probably stop at the market real quick before heading home. So he kind of leans forward and he taps on the driver's shoulder. Well, the driver just suddenly screams and loses control of the car. And it careens off to the side and starts flying towards a bus. Well, the driver grabs the wheel and jerks it to the right, missing the bus barely, but flying up onto the curb. Pedestrians are leaping out of the way, and he slams on the brakes, and it just comes to a stop before slamming into the window of a bakery. The driver turns around, just pale as a ghost, and tells the passenger, "Don't ever do that again. You scared the hell out of me." And the passenger, still stunned, says, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that a tap on the shoulder would scare you so much. And the driver starts calming down. He goes, no, it's not really your fault. It's only my second day driving a cab. I'm still getting used to all the differences from my last job. The passenger asks, what did you do before? And the driver says, well, I've been driving a funeral van for the last 20 years. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. And I want to take a second and apologize to Triple B. I didn't see his comment in the post when I started telling the joke. My condolences to the loss of your family pet. I am sorry. And I hope your family, is doing okay. And I hope that your cat's memory is a blessing for you. All right, we are going to get into the news, and I have an absolute ton of news to cover. And this is not even counting the weird stuff going on in Congress or, we're just going to stick to the pop culture news. It seems like a better idea. There's less crazy people. All right, we're going to start with, if you, like me, are a fan of Welcome to Wrexham, the television docu-style drama starring Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds as they purchase a football team in North Wales. And it shows us about the town itself, and it's a real remarkable show. I've been following it. I caught up on season 1. I've been watching season 2, and it has really been a remarkable show because they go from covering everything to the football games to family relationships, dealing with cancer, learning about Wales, learning about owning a football team. I mean, it is just, where they'll 1 week they'll focus on Ryan and Rob, and then the next week they'll focus on the team, and then they'll focus on the fans. And it is really a remarkable show because there is no simple way to describe it other than all of these people have one thing in common: how important this team is to them and how much they want it to succeed. So, well, the good news is the show is succeeding. It's been renewed for a 3rd season. Now, the season finale is tonight. We'll find out, if you're just watching the show, whether or not the team gets promoted to the next league up, in which case Rob and Ryan might actually start making some money back instead of being millions in debt with the team. But if you follow football directly, you probably already know, because of course there's a delay. But season 3 is going to happen. And Nick Grad, president of FX Entertainment, put out this statement. He said, the wild global success of Welcome to Wrexham is a testament to the courage and vision of Rob and Ryan, the dogged spirit of the Red Dragons, that's the name of the Wrexham team, and the hope and devotion of the people of Wrexham itself. It's a story that has only begun to be told, and one that everyone can continue to follow along with in the 3rd season. Our thanks to the creative team who captured these thrilling moments, and everyone who achieved what seemed impossible only a short time ago. It is a show well worth watching. I will say that. I have enjoyed it. I look forward to each new episode. Sometimes they've released 2, sometimes they've released 1, but you really don't know what the show's going to be about until it starts. It's kind of fascinating that way. So if you look at it and go, I don't care about football, or, it's soccer, it's so much more than that. It's more than just following a sports team. That's just happens to be what pulls them all together. It's the equivalent of 2 guys, a girl, in a pizza place. If you like, well, I don't like pizza. There's so much more. So, hey, Ed, good to see you. All right, let's move on. Netflix popular Wednesday series is headed to a new locale. The upcoming 2nd season of the Addams Family spinoff is going to be filmed in Ireland. Now, it's still being firmed up, but production is tentatively slated to start in April. Season 1, which starred Jenna Ortega, was shot in Romania from September of 2021 to March of 2022. And following the massive global success of the show, tourism for that area has absolutely boomed. But that's kind of made it hard to go back and do the show there again. So since it got renewed, their plan is to move it to Ireland. This is the first show to do a big streaming show to make a big move like that, with Lord of the Rings of Power recently moving from New Zealand, where it almost seemed like you had to film Tolkien adaptations, but it's now going to take place in the UK. So, all right. Continuing with Amazon. Amazon's MGM Studios is eyeing a live-action Masters of the Universe film. This, of course, is based on the 80s toy line from Mattel. Now, it's still very early talks, but the project would come over to the streamer from Netflix. Netflix had it, but it fell apart over there. Adam and Aaron Nee from The Lost City, are the writers, directors who are attached. It's believed they will come with it. And Kyle Allen has long been attached to play the role of Prince Adam / He-Man. Of course, there's been some recent moves with the IP, having had the animated series She-Ra and the Prince of Power, Masters of the Universe Revelation, and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, having to do with Netflix and Kevin Smith. So things are definitely heating up for fans of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Let's see. Let's move on. We're going to be talking about the Loki season finale today, but a lot of people are talking about it, and the show is done very well for Disney Plus. The finale brought in 11.2 million global views over 3 days. That's up 3% from the first 2 episodes. 3 days draws of 10.9 million. Season 2 kicked off with the second most watched season premiere of the year for Disney Plus, just behind the season premiere of The Mandalorian Season 3. The finale of the Marvel Studios series, which just aired on Thursday, was only behind the Season 3 finale of The Mandalorian. So it looks like The Mandalorian's a little more popular than Loki, but not by much. So they're like right there. All right. Screenings are being set up. Well, we talked about how Warner Brothers was going to do a Batgirl to the Coyote versus Acme movie. They were going to basically make it go away forever as a tax write-off. But they got such a negative response to doing that, to the point where even Congress is calling them out. They decided to allow the producers to try to shop it around. And now we're hearing that screenings are being set up for Amazon, Apple, Netflix to acquire this from Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes. Right now, Amazon seems to be the front runner, which has multiple times come in and picked up a project that was getting killed and then turned it into an event for Prime Video. So we'll see if that works out, but there's a good chance that the film will get saved. As long as what they could write it off for, or they pay more than what they write off for, makes a good deal. Now, I know a lot of people are going to go, why didn't they do that with Batgirl? Why didn't they do that with Scooby-Doo's Haunted Halloween? Mainly because those two, from what I understand, were geared towards streaming originally, while this was actually, the Coyote versus Acme was actually made to be a theatrical release. So it has more potential. They can do more with it. So, okay. One of the interesting stories coming out of the book, The MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios, is about the 2008 Incredible Hulk film. Now, I guess they were talking to writer Zach Penn, and we know all the rumors that Ed Norton was just a problem. He wanted a lot of changes. He wanted, script changes and stuff, and he took ownership of his character, and that's kind of what a lot of actors do. But if it really butts heads, it becomes a problem. But in this case, Zach Penn says that most of the changes Ed Norton wanted were cosmetic. He said, I had him walking east down the street wearing a blue hat, and Ed wanted him to head west down the street wearing a red hat, and I had named his downstairs neighbor Lorraine, and he changed it to Melina or something. But it turns out there was one huge change Norton made near the end of the film. And Penn said, there was some stuff at the end that he really changed. I had a scene when Ross picked Banner up from the hospital earlier in the movie. He threw him out of the helicopter. It was a pretty shocking moment. They moved that to the moment where he chooses to jump into Harlem. So that's a big difference. I felt like the movie, like the original version, would have been really cool. And I didn't totally understand why he would jump out into Harlem, given that he could theoretically kill a lot of people. Now, the difference between the two scenes, as I see it, appears to be that the original, Banner is merely a tool Ross is using to stop Blonsky in the same way that he would launch a missile. Norton's change gives Banner more agency in the scene, allowing him to make the heroic choice. From a character's perspective, I can see what Norton was doing. But for a story angle, I think the original one actually works better, because the character at that point and in the plot, Banner had spent all of the movie trying to be cured, to get away from the Hulk, to keep the Hulk away from hurting people. So why would he suddenly now decide, I'm going to use the Hulk for good and leap out into a crowded city? So I also think it might have played better, They played it for the laugh. They had him decide, they have him leap out. And at one moment, when it looks like he's not going to change, he says a curse word and then plummets into the ground. I could see Ross picking him up and hurling him, as being, making more sense at that moment. So Ed says, I did like Norton's Hulk, but Ruffalo was meant to be the Hulk for the MCU, so things worked out as they should have been, in my opinion. Yeah. Ruffalo was Marvel and the director Louis Leterrier's choice, but it was Universal who insisted on Ed Norton. So, yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got. If you look online today, if you looked online over the weekend, you saw this narrative that the Marvels was a big box office flop, right? The film estimated to make about 47 million domestically and 110 million worldwide. And you'll see that this is the lowest opening for an MCU film ever. It is. It just is. You'll also see that the film got a low cinema score grade for an MCU movie. It got a B. And once they've established these horrible things, these articles will then tell you, explain why it went wrong and remind you it's not because of the long runtime, because the Marvel's the shortest MCU film ever at 97 minutes. Eventually, they may get to the position, the positives like 86% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Or they might point out that the film was not able to use the stars like Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson and Aman Vellani to promote the film until the very night it opened because of the SAG-AFTRA strike. And they probably won't remind you that even though the Marvels is getting to open up in China, the second largest audience market, along with a few other Asian countries, those are all only pulling in about a third of their pre-pandemic numbers. People just aren't going back to the theaters in the Asian countries. And they're not going back in waves here either. But they won't take into consideration, the fact that they've spent the last few weeks telling the viewers just how bad this movie is going to be, even though they hadn't seen it yet. And they've set expectations for the movie to be horrible, or they compare it to the first Captain Marvel, which debuted between the two big Avenger films. So, of course, it made $1 billion during its theatrical run. We all know the narrative pushed by certain communities against the original film. You've got a movie with nothing but female leads, and certain part of the audience, that's a no-no. It's wrong. That narrative is wrong, not putting a female-led movie. I think everybody I've talked to who've seen the movie, at worst, thinks it's fun and from there up. I haven't met anybody who absolutely hated the movie. It's fun. It's fast paced. Aman Vellani steals the movie. Brie Larson's fun. Tiona Paris is great. They love the post credit scenes. But it's just weird. What is it? I don't know where the negativity is online. Is it dog lovers who hate the fact there's too many cats in the film or something? I don't know. But it may be time to accept that moviegoers have changed and they don't just go to movies to get out anymore. They go to see what they really want. Yes, the Marvels only did 47 million, and that isn't a glut of ticket sales but there isn't a glut of ticket sales on other films. It's not like people still went to the movies, but they went elsewhere. Five Nights at Freddy's was second place and with 9 million tickets. Taylor Swift was third with 5.9. So it's not like people are, not going to the Marvel movies. They're not going to the movies because the days of people just going, hey, let's go to the movies. Okay, what's playing? When I was younger, I'd get with friends, hey, let's go to the movies Friday. Okay. And then we would call the phone number, listen to the recording of what the movies that were playing, And then we'd go, okay, well, there's this movie, and this movie that all sound good. Okay, what were the times? And then you go from there. And usually you have to call back and get the times once you pick the movie. That's not the case anymore. If there's a movie that interests people, they're going to go and see it. And if there's not a movie, they're not going to the movies. If there's not a specific one, they're not just going to the movies to go to the movies anymore. And it's changing the way we do things. So the day, we're still going to get the occasional movie like Barbie or Top Gun Maverick that's going to do huge. But I think when you're looking at the average movie, 50 million, stuff like that, those are going to be normal openings, no matter what company it is. So, all right. I got a couple more news stories and then we will move on. Netflix has announced this week that a new anime set in the Witcher universe is coming in 2024. The Witcher Sirens of the Deep will see the return of Joey Beatty as Jaskier and Anna Chilatra voicing Yennefer. But we all know that Henry Cavill has moved on. So the streaming service needed a new Geralt of Rivia, and they decided to go with Doug Cockle. And if you're thinking, who the hell is Doug Cockle? He's the voice from the games. They got the original voice of Geralt of Rivia to come in to do the animated movie. So, good call. Sirens of the Deep, in Sirens of the Deep, Geralt, who of course is a mutated monster hunter, is hired to investigate a series of attacks on a seaside village, finds himself drawn into a centuries-old conflict between humans and mere people, and must count on friends, old and new, to solve the mystery before the hostilities between the two kingdoms escalate into all-out war. Now, I'm actually familiar with this story. It is one of the short stories written by Andrzej Sapkowski, the guy who created The Witcher. It's called A Little Sacrifice, and it's one of the few short stories that didn't end up getting used in season 1 of The Witcher. So, because they did take the short stories books and make that into season 1. All right, moving on. Marvel may be giving us a Christmas gift this year, something Ed was just asking about yesterday. The insider Can I Get Some Toast is reporting that What If Season 2 is set to premiere on December 22nd and will have an episode released each day between the 22nd and the 30th of December. Those episodes, of course, he gives the titles. It's What If Nebula Joined the Nova Corps? What If Peter Quill Attacked Earth's Mightiest Heroes? What If Happy Hogan Saved Christmas, which comes out on Christmas Eve? What If Iron Man Crashed into the Grandmaster? That's the one from the previous season that gets pulled in, that they moved to this one. What If Captain Carter Fought the Hydra Stomper? What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602, which is based on the Neil Gaiman 1602 miniseries? What If Hela Found the Ten Rings? What If Kahori Reshaped the World? Kahori being the only original character that they're bringing in to What If. All these other ones are adapting specific Marvel movies. This is going to be an original. And then finally, What If Strange Supreme Intervened? I thought there was going to be 10 episodes, but according to this, there's only 9. Again, this is coming from an insider. It hasn't been confirmed, but they've been saying it was December for that. So, and finally, this is news that just broke a little bit ago. I've never tried to pronounce this name before. Anna Naguera has been set to write Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow for Warner Brothers and DC Studios. The project is a standalone film that will follow Kara Zor-El, the cousin of Superman. The film is still in early development and no director is attached at this time. And while plot details for the pick are still vague, the original comic follows Supergirl as she gets caught up in a young alien girl's quest for revenge. The film is part, of course, the DC Studios co-chief James Gunn and Peter Safran's grand plan to relaunch the DC universe. Now, from what I read, Nogueira was actually attached to do a standalone Supergirl movie based off of Sasha Calle's character in The Flash. So I haven't heard if they're considering Sasha Calle again or not, but at least it's something to keep an ear open to until we find out for sure who will be playing Supergirl. All right, guys, I think we are caught up on the news. I'll double check during the break. And we'll come back and talk about the rumor about Kang and the season finale of Loki. We'll be right back.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out. Twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds, a promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey, and behind every page there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
What if Hans Gruber from Die Hard had to battle the Joker from Batman the Animated Series in a dance battle? Or who would win in a race between Baby from Baby Driver and Snidely Whiplash? If Austin Powers and Shrek found themselves in a hot dog eating contest, who would emerge victorious? These are the questions we talk about on Nerd Killer Warfare. Debate the most absurd questions you've ever heard in popular culture. Register now by scanning the QR code or visiting bit.ly/EXP casting.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We've got a good lineup today at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. Jay, who's on the board right now, will be joined by Kyle and Miss Jen as they talk about this week's books. And, of course, we'll have the Mint Hunter tonight. Let me answer Ed's question here. He says, it's so weird that's an issue now. No one, and I mean no one, had a problem with Sigourney Weaver being the hero of Alien and Aliens. What happened? I'm going to give it to you simple. If it would have been 2010, 2008, I don't think anybody would have cared. But in the last, I'll say 2 decades even, Well, what I'm trying to get at is I think that sentiment has always been there. What's happened is with the internet, the anonymity of being able to post online and to make your own TikToks and YouTube videos and stuff like that, the megaphone has been given to people that would normally not have it. And it's become more acceptable. Extreme ideas and extreme positions have become more acceptable. And not saying that they've become more correct or more mainstream, but just having those ideas. People, you're not ostracized for saying horrible, hate-filled things anymore, which you should be. And we're seeing it in all walks of life, whether it's anti-Semitism, whether it's racism, whether it's sexism. Suddenly it's okay to hop up on your soapbox and shout these things. And society isn't kicking the soapbox out from under you anymore. If anything, it's like, oh no, it's his right to speak. He can say what he wants. When you can sit in your basement or you can sit at home on your computer and say whatever you want without fear of retaliation or incriminations or anything like that, then people are going to say some outlandish stuff. And when Sigourney Weaver was in Aliens, there was no internet. There was no megaphone for hatred. But there is today. I'm kind of working on a story or an article about this and about negativity and hatred and how it gets clicks, but it's also destroying a lot of things we love, things that matter. I'm seeing it in entertainment. I'm seeing it in politics. I'm seeing it in the world, and it's just ridiculous. Jay says, I believe in voicing your opinion. I had to listen to them a ton when I came to liking DC movies, but the problem is the vitriol. You can not like things, but you don't need to be grossly repetitive with it. Yeah. Hey, Kenneth. All right. This is going to move on to sort of where I was going to go next anyway. If you look online, you're going to see a lot of people posting stories about how Marvel is moving on from Kang. That they're done with Kang. And, we're seeing stories about how, it's going to be replaced with Doctor Doom and the Kang Dynasty will get another name and all this stuff. And the 90% of that, 95% of that is speculation. And it all comes from a podcast with an insider who heard something about a fired writer. And it's a domino thing. So let's trace it back. Where did this start? Now keep in mind, Jonathan Majors is still on trial, is going to be on trial for sexual abuse, or, there's a chance he's going to go to jail. He's got a big court case coming up later this month. And there's a chance he will not be available, or that Marvel can't move forward with him. And then they have to come up with a solution. Marvel, of course, has not come out and said anything. They have been silent because they want to see how this plans out. And it would not surprise me if they made backup plans. But it would surprise me to see if they've already put those plans into effect to the point where they have decided to move on. Now, tracing this back, there's a podcast called The House of R, and it has to do with a group called The Ringer. And I guess that's a website. I don't know. I don't know anything about The Ringer. A writer named Joanna Robinson who works for The Ringer, and I believe she is one of the writers on the big new book that's out, the MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios, that a lot of that's just been canon, or just, the source for a plethora of articles. And it's them basically talking to a bunch of insiders. And again, the veracity of the information in the book has yet to be tested. It could all be 100% true. It could be 20% true. We don't know. Now, on the podcast, Joanna Robinson said, I got it confirmed that Jeff Loveness was no longer working for Marvel Studios. And then I asked the person why, and they said that the reason why is that he was all wrapped up in the Kang storyline, and they are likely moving away from that. Now, Jeff Loveness did not do an interview. Jeff Loveness was the writer of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. He worked on Loki season 1. And word has come out, again, not confirmed, but that he was no longer working on Kang Dynasty, because that was supposed to be his next project, Kang Dynasty. Now, Marvel is moving on from a lot of writers, and it is possible after the performance of Quantumania that they decided they wanted to go with somebody other than Jeff Loveness. That is very possible. Now, but again, it hasn't been confirmed that he's gone. Let's assume he is. Now, an insider, so this isn't coming from Jeff. This is coming from somebody who talked to Jeff, who then talked to the insider, who said it on a podcast. And supposedly, they didn't say Jeff said it, but supposedly he's all wrapped up in the Kang storyline, and they're going to move away from that. Now, is that the reason to let somebody go? On Loki season 2, Marvel decided that the 5th episode was not going to work. They had to scrap it. They had the writer rewrite the entire 5th episode completely different. What they didn't do was let him go because they decided they weren't going to do the 5th episode like they were and rewrite it. So it seems if you like a writer, you like his work, then if you're going to go a different direction, you give him a chance to try the new direction. Just saying. But okay. So say they are going to move away from Kang because of the issues, or maybe they're potentially going to move away from Kang because of the issues. And that's what it said in the quote. They are likely to move away from Kang. But that's not confirmed. And again, so for all these people to come out and go from this guy was let go, or we hear this guy was let go because he was tied up with the Kang storyline, and they're going to move away from that. That seems like a lot of speculation and a lot of add-on to then come out and act like it's fact that Marvel is going to move away from Kang. So, yeah. I'd say don't be surprised if they do, but also don't take it as fact either. Amani, you're kind of right. It does feel like that the move the finale puts them in a position not to use Kang going forward if they want to. If the worst happens, but it also doesn't feel like they've closed the door completely. They do say in the finale that they do mention the Quantum Mania Kang and how he was taken care of. But, there is no, well, that took care of Kang. We'll never see him again. The door is still there. And it's been a very long time since Kevin Feige stood on a stage with his baseball cap on and a giant screen behind him showing movie titles. So we really don't know what the changes are. There haven't been a lot of official announcements and stuff. So anything is possible. But again, there's a lot of people out there saying stuff like they know. And I would take it all with a grain of salt personally. I think if they go to court and Jonathan Majors, skates through it and ends up clear on the other side, they might just keep going with him, because I think Kang is a very interesting character. But again, we will see. Maybe Young Avengers Kang, yeah. Iron Lad is a possibility. There were so many different versions of Kang in the comics. If they had to, they could just recast and still be okay. Exactly. Or they could turn around and say, you know what, Kang was actually Ke Huy Quan, and suddenly OB becomes Kang. There's a lot of different things they could do. And again, I don't necessarily think they would fire a writer specifically because that was the story he was working on. Unless it's because someone walked in and said, what if we do it this way instead? And they went, hire that guy and get rid of him. So, all right. So since we're moving towards the finale here, let's go ahead and talk about the finale. It was interesting. I kind of expected what happened in the finale to have happened in the 5th episode. I kind of expected it to be the grandfather paradox, or where you're, going back in time over and over and repeating the same history. And we've seen that on so many shows, and that Groundhog's Day. Groundhog Day is exactly the best example for that. It wouldn't have surprised me if Loki would have learned how to play piano, because that seems to be, some kind of musical instrument is usually part of it. But I think they handled it really well. It didn't become boring. It didn't become, a joke. And it got us to some really interesting moments, really dramatic moments that I hadn't expected and I really liked. The conversation between Loki and He Who Remains at the end, where they're stopping time, and there's a moment where He Who Remains realizes how far along Loki is. And instead of seeming to be, the He Who Remains that we first met, the kind of scattered all over the place, I've been a lot, I've gone through time too often, that disappears and he becomes much more focused in the conversation. And to me, that's good acting. We've gotten so many unique versions of him, or of Kang already, that I would love to see them continue, if it's possible, with Kang and Jonathan Majors. Now, I have never read Agents of Asgard. Didn't read that comic. And I know a lot of people who did immediately went, oh my God, he's become the god of stories. I am a Norse mythology fan, and there is no god of stories in Norse mythology. So that's a really weird name to me. especially for someone who is basically now the god of timelines or the god of time. But I guess storylines, timelines, we're not going to quabble over that. I think that with this episode, and when you combine this season with the first season, this has become one of the best things Marvel has done. You know, it's more than just a well-written season. It's a well-written series. The two go together very well. There really isn't any wasted episodes. They do this amazing formula in the first season where they do 4 episodes where everything is going one direction. Then they do a 5th episode. They surprise you at the end of the 4th, take you in a completely different direction in the 5th episode, and then slow down the finale, but makes it very dramatic. And they did it again. It's the exact same formula. It worked great in season 1. They did it again in season 2, which they should have. I mean, it was the right call. We end with a Loki who didn't want the throne anymore, but getting it. A Loki who is willing to sacrifice himself to save everybody else. This is a very different Loki, and this is an amazing story arc. It's an amazing character arc to see him make that change. And if you think, well, you know, six episodes, 12 episodes doesn't seem to be enough to do that. Well, you got to remember that when he was going through time and everything else, learning all that stuff, it was centuries. They literally put one of the saddest, I don't remember what it's called, but when they just put the words across the screen, that just said centuries later. The only thing sadder than that was Sam Beckett never made it home. I thought that was brilliant. That just, you know, and then when they, you know, when we get the other title card, there we go. That's it. It just says after. It does, because there's questions of where everything takes place. Where is Quantum Mania? Where is Multiverse of Madness? What took place when? And sadly, the new Marvel Timeline book only goes up through Phase 4. So we don't know where this fits in. But I am just assuming that everything we've seen so far up to now takes place before the after segment. And most of Phase 4 took place before that. Or most of Phase 4 took place between the ending and the after. Yeah, the Quantum Leap finale was a heartbreaker. But the new series is actually trying to fix that. So yeah, I think that I think this was a remarkable finale. I think it sets up the MCU in a lot of very interesting ways. I saw this theory that I haven't played with enough, but I'm really fascinated by. And the theory has people in the MCU becoming the new Infinity Stones. That Loki has just become the Time Stone. That Scarlet Witch is the Reality Stone, and Monica Rambeau is the Space Stone. And if you've seen the Marvels, you'll know why. And I think there's some potential there, like that Marvel is, because the idea is you could destroy the stones, but the energy and the power that fuel them still exists and has to go somewhere. So it would make sense that it would find a new host, and that host could be a person. So Loki becomes the new Time Stone. Yes, it would take a very big gauntlet, probably a ship. You know, maybe they become the new Infinity Watch. But again, I don't know if that's even what Marvel's doing. It could just be a huge coincidence and based on colors, but it kind of works. And then when you start looking at, the Power Stone seems to tie in heavily to Wakanda and vibranium. Um, the Vision is tied to the Soul Stone. The Soul Stone? I don't know. I get confused on the stones. But there's 3 there, 3 not. We'll see. All right. So, but again, I think overall, it's been an absolutely amazing series. And I watched it just in awe of almost everything. The effects of him going into the new costume he's wearing, the headgear looked a little silly on him to me, but I think that's just me. I don't think anybody else is saying that. I do like, though, that his headgear and his throne weren't necessarily made of gold like he usually wears. It's made of that black rock that's filled with gold to repair it, like the Citadel at the end of time, the Kusiji or whatever it's called. I thought that was pretty good. Vision is the Mind Stone. That's what I was trying to think of. The Soul Stone is the one I haven't been able to connect yet. Could end up being Adam Warlock, who normally gets the Soul Stone in Marvel. Anyway, my only complaint is I think Sylvie got kind of turned into a background character this season. I'd like to have seen them do a little more with her, but overall, I like how they handled Mobius and Casey. I liked how, even though Loki kind of took a step back a little bit when Victor came in, he thrust back to the front. It became Loki's show again over the last 2 episodes. And yeah, it's really strong. So I hope you guys liked it, because I think it's going to be a while before we find out what all this means. What Loki's new power is going to mean. It'll probably be Endgame. Not Endgame, and Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars is where we start getting answers to this. And I could see how Kang could still play a part. If he goes after Loki and that's him, that the Kang Dynasty is him trying to take down Loki. I don't know. Again, I'd like to see, and I'm this way with both Marvel and DC. I think the studios need to come out and make definitive statements on where they're going, where they're at, and what's next. And end all the months and months and months of ridiculous speculation and rumor mills and stuff like that, because all of those sites, they make money based on views. And I guess technically we do too, but I'm too stupid to realize it and use those same tactics of making big banner headlines of negativity. But, I talk to you guys, I give you the news, I give you my thoughts, but I'm not going to gear it towards negative just to get you to click. Never going to do that. So, yeah. But yeah, I'd like to see Feige and James Gunn come out and make clear, definitive statements and end all the BS. I think it's time. So, but Loki is absolutely awesome. I think Tom Hiddleston should be nominated for an Emmy, and I think he should win it. And I would like to see Ke Huy Quan or Jonathan Majors nominated for supporting actor, though I don't think anybody's nominating Majors for anything right now, but just on the performance. So, all right, let me answer this real quick for Ed. For those who are interested, the issues with my legs are mostly improving, but I've been fighting a lot of infections. Currently doing it again. They pop back up. So I'm a little under the weather, but you could probably hear it a little bit in my voice is a little weaker than normal. But I'm already on the antibiotics again and doing well. So thank you for asking, Ed. I plan to be here as often as possible. So, all right, guys. Tomorrow we're going to have a guest. Renee Geerling is supposed to be here. She is working on a Kickstarter with Tyler Main, her husband. We'll talk about that. She was also the managing editor or publisher or whatever over at Top Cow for a long time. She's been in the industry a long time. It'll be good to talk to her. And then Thursday, I've got a couple ideas for a show. I may break down those 2 post-credit scenes and what they mean from the Marvels, or I may do a talk about how it's the internet that's killing Marvel and not anything, and not what all the internet thinks it is. So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you guys tomorrow, and have a great night. Take care of yourself, because if you ain't got your health, you ain't got nothing, right? So, are we dropping the Jack of Hearts thing? No, I will get back to that. I promise. I will get back to that. So, all right. Good night, everybody.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.